Okay, folks. Hello. My name is Roman Ivanitskii. I'm from the Quality Infrastructure team in JetBrains, and today I'll be talking about our integration test framework. I've been at JetBrains a bit over 3 years, and I work on performance test for Kotlin plugin, built automation for JetBrains AI system plugin, and now I am focused on the quality tools. And today I will share some insights about test framework that I used for all of these tasks. There are several reasons for this talk. The first one, you actually can use this framework for your plugins. For example, I think I can make happy our first speaker from Zencoder. And yeah, the second reason, I just want to share my experience. And in today's talk, I will cover how to start the IDE and prepare the test project, how to interact with the UI and internals of the IDE, and how to work with the test results. And let's start with the starter. Starter's main goal is to launch the IDE and prepare the test project. Because usually when you're testing something inside the IDE, you want to test this functionality in specific project. And the key feature of the starter is support all of our IDE products. And the main concept of the starter is the test context, which define the IDE type, IDE version, and test project. And speaking about the project, you can gather it from the link or from the Git hosting, or you can implement your own specific logic to set up the test project. To be more practical, I will guide you on step-by-step how you can write integration test for this specific test case. I've chosen the simple scenario just to show how it looks like, and my goal is to make you familiar with our tools. And I want just to run IDE, open some Gradle project, execute some Gradle task, and check the result. Gradle is a build system for in the JVM world, so you can think that it's just something that built the project. Yeah, I will use the Spring Pet Clinic project. Is a very popular JVM project that used for demonstration. Yeah, that's why. And the first step will be to create the test context, and it's quite straightforward. You need to provide two arguments: the test case, which is which represent the IDE type and the project, and the test name. Yeah, and don't be scared. There will be some code on the slides, but not too much. And the test name actually corresponding to the directories on your disk, which will contain some test results and test artifacts from the IDE run. And very often you want to customize your IDE, plugin, or project, for example, to enable feature flag or disable, or maybe get access to files in your project. And it's possible with the test context. And Starter provides run IDE test function that you can use to launch the IDE and then get the IDE instance and interact with that. And the run IDE test function also has a few useful methods that you can use to, for example, set up timeout for your IDE run, or set up some preparation hook or teardown hook. And as you can see on this demo, it looks like the usual JUnit test. You can click on the run gutter and the test will run, and that's it. Starter will download the IDE installer in the background. The driver is our second part of our test framework, and it's responsible for interacting with the UI elements and for accessing the internals of the IDE. But before you actually can interact with the UI, you first need to understand its structure, like in the usual web automation, where you have browser tools to access all these insights. We also have a few tools for this. The first tool is UI Inspector, is a built-in tool available in internal mode, and by using it you can obtain any details from the UI state inside the IDE. And another tool is UI hierarchy page. UI hierarchy page represent current IDE state and map all these UI element visible during currently visible UI element to the div tags with all available information, like attributes. To enable UI hierarchy page, you need to provide several VM options and then just open local server. So after gathering all this insight, you actually can build your first XPath query to locate the UI element. And it's quite simple. As I said, we use div for each UI element, and you can use any attribute like accessible name and its value. And one more thing, you can use your favorite browser to open the UI hierarchy page and test your XPath directly there. Now you're ready to interact with the UI, and for that, driver provides the UI robot, and this is main tool for locating the elements and interacting with them. And it provides two main methods, like X method and double X. First one is return single element, and the second one is a list of UI components. And I get frustrated every time I need to remember the exact syntax of the XPath. That's why we also provide xQuery DSL builder, which will make it easier for you and for me to build XPath queries. X method return UI component, and UI component directly correspond to the visible UI element in the IDE UI, and it has different function that make it easier to interact with the IDE UI, like clicking, getting text, or other attributes. UI component list is basically the wrapper around the list of UI elements. And I can't skip the part about keyboard, because it's quite often when you need to type something, press some key, etc. And Starter and Writer provide the keyboard extension function to work with the keyboard. Okay, back to my test case. I already run the IDE. I open the pet clinic project, and my next step is actually execute Gradle clean build. But what does it mean to execute Gradle clean build in this context, in context of the IDE? And I'm talking about IntelliJ IDE, and it means that I'm talking about the Gradle plugin, and then it means that I need to open Gradle tool window, click on the button to open the execute action, Gradle action pop-up, and just type this command and press enter. To make it possible, I gather all needed from this test attributes from the UI inspector, like I get this accessible name for the Gradle button. I also get the accessible name for execute Gradle task button, and also class name of this pop-up where I need to type my command. So by putting it all together, I end up with such test scenario where I'm using the UI robot to interact with the IDE UI by clicking and typing something. And there's another demo where you can see that it just works. It's run the IDE, it click on some buttons, and it types something. But you will see that it will finish right away, because we does not wait for the test result in the console view. And it's a common way in the test automation to create some so-called page object or whatever name you prefer for this. And in driver and starter, we provide a way to create your own UI components. You just need to extend UI component class, and then you need to implement some function that will return your new custom class by using the X method with XPath and then mapping this UI component to your new custom class. I did it for the toolbar that opened the Gradle tool window. I did it for the same for the Gradle tool window, and also for execute pop-up, which contains the execute step action, essentially a combination of several UI interaction, like click on this element and type something and so on. And yeah, this is my test before I introduced these common UI elements, and this is after. And from my point of view, it's much better and easy to maintain. And I don't need usually to implement a new custom elements because our test SDK already has a lot of common UI components, so I just can choose one and use it. And one thing that you need to know when you're working with the UI elements in driver, they lazy by nature, like me. And when I create new instance of the UI component, nothing has happened. The search is performed only when you interact with this element, like click on it or getting some attributes, so you can create some UI components beforehand and use it later. And also, one thing that you need to know, that test code lives outside of the IDE process. So it's two separate processes, and you can't directly invoke some IDE or plugin code from your test process. But we have special connection that we can use and send commands from the test process to the IDE side and receive responses. And it means that we can actually invoke any action that available in the current IDE. So I change a bit my test, and instead of interacting with the UI, I just invoke Gradle built-in execute task action that will open the pop-up. And you may ask me how to get this action ID, and there's actually two answers. First, you are a developer, you wrote this plugin and you know it, or you can get it by using the UI inspector tool. There will be an action ID property if this UI component will trigger this action ID. Back to our test case. So I already execute Gradle clean build. Okay, what is next? I need to check the result, but checking the result will be the same as interacting with the UI. But I want something more, some special sauce to make it interesting. And by secret sauce, I mean the test stability. Because when I write test, I want to make sure that they are stable. And currently, this one isn't very stable, and I will explain why. Actually, because we run the launch IDE, and we invoke right away the Gradle execute task action, and we expect that IDE is ready to handle it. But is it really true? I'm not sure. That's why I need to go a bit deeper into driver and how you can interact with the internals of your plugin from the test code. So, for example, I want to interact with the project manager from the IDE platform code, and I want to check that at least one project is opened now. I can do it by simply creating some interface in the test code that will point to the original class with the remote annotation. And then I need to create the same method and parameters of this method as original class, and then I just can use it as I directly inside the IDE. So I changed the test a bit, and now I put some wait until the open project not empty, and then it's ready for interaction. And you actually can interact with different type of object and instances inside the IDE. So you can interact with some static class or static object. You can create new instance of class, or you can access the service from the IDE. And finally, I end up with this four-step test case where I'm waiting for the project, open the Gradle, execute pop-up task by invoking the action, typing something, and waiting till the result. And as you can see, it just works, as I said before, but in this case, I change a bit. I changed the Gradle clean build to Gradle clean compile Java. I just make my test much faster, but you still can observe the result and the idea. A few seconds, and yeah, that's it. It works. So I run the IDE, open the pet clinic project, execute Gradle task, perform all the UI interaction, and check the result, and also added a synchronization point to make this test more stable. And yeah, the next part will be about how to work with the test results. And actually, it will be intentionally very short because usually you do not write a lot of tests. You usually put all of your time to trying to understand why it's failing, and you need some experience, some practice to understand why IDE might fail or why your plugin is failing. And I want to give you a few hints that will make it like easier for you in the future, and for me especially. As I said before, when we create the test context, we use the test context name, which is correspond to some directories on the disk, and they contain some logs, some artifacts that our test framework automatically capture it during the IDE execution. For example, we capture screenshot every time the IDE error is occurred. And the structure is simple. We have out/IDE test directory, which will contain some installer files for IDE itself, caches, and test folders, which will contain all the artifacts and results for different type of IDEs and the test runs. The most interesting for us is log directory, which will contain the screenshot, idea.log, and errors, and some additional custom artifacts. And yeah, I can put anything there. For example, for AI related feature, I can put some LLM answers and so on. And if you use some JetBrains IDE, you may notice sometimes such pop-up where some exception were occurred during the IDE work. It means that some plugin or some platform code has a bug, and we want you to report it to us to fix it. And to make this process like feedback faster for us, we actually report every exception that will occur during the IDE run as a separate test failure. So even if the test will pass, we will notice some exception or error in the IDE run. And yeah, actually that's it. To recap what I was talking about today, about how to start the IDE and how to prepare your test project, about test context, how to interact with the UI of IDE or plugin, how to get all this insight from the UI inspector or from the hierarchy page, and a bit about test results, what is there, and how I can get some insight from the test results. If you really interested, you can check out the plugin docs where you can read about the test framework. You also can download the example project and run this project on your machine. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for your attention. Questions?